Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Family Time on Love 101 FM. This is your program, Family Time. Now, Family Time is about your issues and your relationships, whether it is your family abroad or abroad. Family Time is produced by the Family Life Ministries, and our aim is to enable healthy families, which will lead to a healthy nation. So please stay tuned with us and please connect with us via all our social media platforms. Friend us on Facebook at FLM Family Life Ministries. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Family Life Ministries FLM JA. And of course, we are on Instagram. So be sure to keep up with what's happening at FLMJA. I'm your host for today, Tamika Scott Walters. And as always, we have another interesting topic for us to discuss today. So, some of us have sugar, some of us simply eat sugar. Others of us want nothing to do with that thing which makes everything taste better. But sugar, aka diabetes, is a respecter of no one. Anyone can get diabetes, but we can eliminate or lessen the risk of it by the diet we consume. All we need to know is what is safe, what is smart, and what are the myths. So, fact versus fiction, which leads us to today's topic, the diabetes diet dilemma. That's right, the diabetes diet dilemma. So, do you need to rethink food for your long term health? That one's really food for thought there. And while you're chewing on that, I want you to answer today's question. How has your diet changed because of diabetes? How has your diet changed because of diabetes? So please send us your answers via WhatsApp, text, and voice notes. Remember to keep them 30 seconds or less. And you may send to 876-997-3125 or give us a call on our studio lines at 876-968-8327 or 8 to participate. You can also watch us and comment live on Love 101's Facebook and YouTube page. We will be right back with our special guest for today, Alex Johnson and Rashid Perry. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
As the song says, it's the hardest thing to give away and the last thing on your mind. Forgiveness is the process of intentionally letting go of negative feelings and resentment towards someone who has wronged you. It's a voluntary transformation of your feelings, attitudes, and behavior. Forgiveness has the might to change the whole world. There is no end to what its power can do, so let it go and be amazed by what you see through eyes of grace. The prisoner that is really free is you. Tuesday, November 5 on The Rock. Join guests Dominique Johnson and Reverend Dr. Ralston Memard as we discuss the topic forgiveness. That's The Rock, Tuesday, November 5 at 10 a.m. here on the family station, Love 101.
Don't miss the next episode of the Mailbox as we will look at young men and ministry. November is Youth Month, and young men in Christian ministry can be a key influence in the lives of their peers. Churches can also engage them in a number of ways, including providing opportunities for them to preach, teach in Sunday school classes, and actively participate in youth ministry gatherings. You are invited to join the conversation with Pastor Stephen Zink, aka the Dancehall Pastor, on Wednesday, November 6th at 5:30 p.m. on the Family Station. Low 101. The Mailbox is brought to you by Solid PVC Pipes, manufactured in Jamaica by Foxridge Company Limited. That's Wednesday, November 6th at 5:30 p.m. only on the Family Station. Love 101, the Mailbox, Monday up.
I am mama, yes. Strong man, integrity man. I am November is Youth Month, and on the next Campus Connection, we'll be focusing on youth and technology. Today, 75% of people aged between 15 and 24 are users of the internet, making them a generation of digital natives. The significance of young people's power, potential, and influence on technologies have made them key stakeholders of digital development. Let's make it a date with Jonathan and Nesta and special guests, Mrs. Davia Bryan Campbell, creator of Teen Tech JA, Mr. David Hanson of Grenier High School, and Mrs. Shireen Denton Power on Tuesday, November 5 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station Love 101.
Campus Connection is brought to you by Heart MSTA Trust. Skill is power. And TGI Fridays at TGIF. Every day is Friday.
That's Campus Connection, Tuesday, November 5 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station Love 101.
Welcome back to Family Time on Love 101. And welcome to our special guest today. We have with us Alex Johnson, clinical dietitian intern. Now, Alex he's a master's in public health and gerontology student, and he's also the managing director of Dietitian Corner JA. Welcome to you, Alex.
Hello, thank you for having me this evening. Welcome to the love listeners on Family Life Ministries this evening.
Awesome, Alex. It is wonderful to have you with us today. Now, Alex, I know that what we are talking about today is right up your alley, as you are the managing director for Dietitian Corner JA. And so we're happy to have you in our family time corner today.
Thank you. I'm in the rain, but I cannot miss this opportunity to share with you all today about diabetes.
Okay, awesome. Well, please keep dry for us. Now, to all our listeners, November is when we put the spotlight on diabetes. It is Diabetes Awareness Month. And for those who have it, we would like to know, how has your diet changed because of diabetes? Remember to send us your texts or voice notes. Keep them 30 seconds or less, and you may send to 876-997-3125. Also, remember to share on our social media platforms, Love 101's FM Facebook and YouTube page. So let's get right into it. We know we Google search everything, Alex. And when I did, Wikipedia says diabetes mellitus, often known simply as diabetes, is a group of common endocrine disease characterized by sustained high blood sugar levels. Diabetes is due to either the pancreas not producing enough insulin or the cells of the body becoming unresponsive to the hormone's effect. Now, to our listeners, if you are like me, that may sound a little complicated, but no need to worry. We have Sir Alex with us today, and he will be our master translator, bridging the gap so that we are able to understand. So, Alex, can you break down for us what diabetes really means in simple terms so that I can understand?
Okay, thank you again, Tamika and listeners. So, diabetes is very simple to understand if we break it down. So it's really the body not being able to break down Mr. Sugar. And when we have too much carbohydrates that do turn into sugars, our body cannot produce the hormone insulin. So we have Mr. Pancreas, who is responsible for the production of insulin. But sometimes what happens to us is that our pancreas is not able to produce the amount of insulin that our body will need, or we our cells, as you shared in the definition earlier, is not able to absorb the insulin, so our body becomes insulin resistant. So we have different types of diabetes. I'm sure that we all hear about type 1 and type 2, and further down we will speak a little bit more about that. But generally, diabetes is when you have too much sugar in the body, too much sugar in the blood, and the pancreas is not producing the right amount of insulin, or it is producing the insulin and the body cannot readily use the insulin.
Okay, all right, thank you, Alex. So I've made a note of the pancreas function and what it does or what it doesn't do sufficiently. And there's too much sugar that's in the body. So this is what happens in the body when someone has diabetes. With so many people at risk, though, Alex, are there some signs that we can look for that might indicate that, hey, we need to get a checkup for diabetes?
Yes, so there is a few signs and symptoms that we usually educate our patients on.
Ah, there are signs. Okay. All right. Alex, on that note, we are going to take a break. But guess what? We will get right back to it. To all our listeners, remember we want to know, how has diabetes changed your diet? Be sure to send us your texts, your voice notes, keep them 30 seconds or less, and send via WhatsApp tonight at 876-997-3125, or you may comment on our social media pages. Please remember that the Family Life Ministries head office in Kingston can be reached at 876-920-1034 or 876-926-8101. When we get back, we'll hear what those signs and symptoms are. Stay tuned.
Recycling partners of Jamaica. Yeah, we got to make a change. And we have to do it now, can't wait for later. We put plastic in its place, and we all can agree that will be safer than in the gullies and in the drains. Recycling partners of Jamaica. We put plastic in its place. A license, no matter what your class or status or title, got to be responsible and recycle. Yes, we got talk about plastic buckle board. You have to make sure say that the right type to look for the triangle with the one or two. But that don't matter, could I yellow or blue? You have to just make sure them empty, collect them plenty, recycling revenue. So listen up, Jamaica, I'm saying it's time to make a change. Recycling partners of Jamaica, we put plastic in its place, and we all can agree that will be safer than in the gutters in the every veins. Recycling partners of Jamaica, we put plastic in its place.
Jamaica! Bird's Auto Parts is now your home for genuine and non-genuine Kia parts. From body to suspension, engine, and service parts. We've got what your Kia needs to keep you moving smoothly. Visit us today and power your Kia. And remember, it hurts if you don't check Bird's.
You good, Mark? No. From what day me have these terrible heartburns. I don't know why. What kind of food you eating? To tell you the truth, I mostly eat fast food. I live alone and I'm too busy for cook my youth. And that's your problem. You're eating too much processed food and building up trans fat. Trans fat? What that? Trans fat is a type of fat in a processed foods like fried chicken, fries, donuts, and them things there. So how that cause heartburn? So eating trans fat can cause acid reflux. So if you don't stop eating or cut back on the amount you eat, things can get worse. Like what? You can get heart attacks, stroke, type 2 diabetes, or even die. But fats and oils, no important to eat, my youth. Yes, but the healthy kind in a vegetable aisle, nuts and fish. Okay, no, I'm gonna switch up my diet starting today. Just remember to balance it out with your fresh fruits, vegetables, and ground provision.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Receive words of strength from the Voice of Power with Bishop Dr. Delford Davis.
The battle of seed has been declared many years ago and is still raging. I will put enmity between thee and between the woman. Thy seed, their seed. A war will be on perpetually until Jesus returns. But I know who has already won the war. Who has already won the war?
That's the Voice of Power with Bishop Dr. Delford Davis, brought to you by the Power of Faith Ministries International in Portmore. Voice of Power comes to you every Thursday at 9:30 a.m. right here on the Family Station. Love 101.
Speak, my Lord. Speak, my Lord. Speak, and I will answer. Lord, send me.
Welcome back, one and all. The diabetes diet dilemma is today's topic on Family Time. And we want to know, how has your diet changed because of diabetes. Now, I don't have diabetes, but I have certainly made an effort to stop eating too much sugar. Now, I don't know if any of our listeners have a sweet tooth like I do. And so, because I know it's has a lot to do with the amount of sugar that we consume, I'm trying to, have a little less candy. So, before we went for the break, Alex was about to share with us what are some of the signs or symptoms of diabetes. So, Alex, I want you to hop right into it. What are the signs
Yes.
to be looking
Ye-
for?
Yes, thank you again for the question. So it is an issue with or signs and symptoms because sometimes it can mean other things, but these are common signs and symptoms of diabetes mellitus type 1 or 2. So we see sometimes the patients complain of excessive thirst. So no matter how them drink water or all sorts of different beverages, they are not feeling replenished. So they keep on complaining about being thirsty. We also see frequent urination. So they're getting up all 6, 7, 8, 9 times. And I'm not exaggerating. This is real life testimonies I'm sharing from patients that they use the bathroom up to 10 times. They can't sleep throughout the night because of frequent urination. Some persons may feel excessively tired. So excessive fatigue. You know you're sleeping your full 8 hours in the night, but you're just very tired all the time. And some persons have unexplained weight loss. Some of them tell you that them exercising and all sorts of things, but the weight that they are losing just not matching up to the amount of exercise that they are putting in. So we see these symptoms and signs, and even you get a wound and it takes forever to heal. So these are just some major signs and symptoms that we look out for, and then we recommend for persons to do what we call their HbA1c testing. And that test will tell us first, they will do a random blood glucose test where the finger prick, all of us know about that. And when we test the finger prick, if the blood sugar is high there, usually the doctor will order a urine analysis. And we look if there's any glucose or protein in the urine, and then a HbA1c is done, and then we determine, along with some other blood tests, but those are the major tests that we use to diagnose somebody with diabetes. So we can't just use the signs and symptoms and say that you're diabetic. But these are things that our listeners are to look out for. And if they are having these signs and symptoms, they are to go to their nearest health center or to their doctor immediately. You don't need to go to the hospital for this. You go to the nearest health center or your private practitioner and get screened, get checked.
Okay, thank you, Alex. I made a note of it, and yes, I am familiar with the glucose finger prick. And so we encourage our listeners, even if they have experienced all or some of these symptoms, you have to get tested. So we do encourage you to seek medical attention with your doctor to do the necessary tests and checks. So, Alex, I know diabetes seems to be very common. Um, I don't know what are the statistics. Are we, are certain groups more predisposed to diabetes?
Yes, so there is persons who have predisposition. So, for example, someone whose parent, mother or father, or close relatives have diabetes, they are at high risk of being diabetic. So they need to start screening from early. So if your mommy have it and your daddy have it and your auntie have it and your grandmother have it, it's a generation of diabetics. You need to start screening from early. Also, for persons who have hypertension or other non-communicable diseases, they tend to be at higher risk of diabetes. Also, for persons who are obese, so you have a high BMI, you have an excessive weight, we want those persons to start monitoring because they are at increased risk of diabetes due to these other predisposed conditions that they have. And then, as I said, genetics, unfortunate, and age also. as a person is aging, I have to put in the gerontology part. So as persons are aging, they are at risk of these conditions also.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Alex. Well, Alex, I certainly see why you are the managing director of Dietitian Corner JA. And Alex, at this time too, we have another, to all our listeners, we do have another guest joining us, and that is Mr. Rashid Perry. Now, Rashid is a food scientist and a nutritionist, and he's also a doctoral candidate. So, you see, listeners, they are prepared to break this topic down, to answer your questions, and to ensure we leave with an understanding today of the importance of dieting for treating diabetes. So, Rashid, welcome to you. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing a lot better now. Thank you.
Awesome. That's what we love to hear. So, Rashid, you hopped right into the hot seat when Alex was explaining to us about diabetes just now and those who may be at greater risk. I know that let me speak for myself. I know that I am big on food and I am a
Mhm.
food lover and I do eat a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Before, Alex had mentioned the significance and the link between sugar in the blood and
Mhm.
diabetes and how the pancreas works and all those things. What I want to know, Rashid, is
Mhm.
does the food that we eat directly affect diabetes?
Well, that's a very, very good question. And yes, the food that we do eat does affect the risk of one developing diabetes, as well as if you're already living with diabetes, that can also affect um, certain symptoms that you may have relating to having the condition. Now, when it comes to diabetes and food, we have to be very careful with the information that is provided because sometimes a lot of the information tends to be very general. And what tends to happen is, for example, somebody who is living with diabetes, they'll be told, for example, oh, you cannot have bread, you cannot have ice cream, you cannot have a slice of cake, which is not entirely true. But when it comes to food and diabetes, we're more or less concerned with how much you're having at any one time and how frequent you're having that food item.
Okay, so food does play a part, but it has to do with our portions. And based on the type of diabetes one may have, we have to look at quantity and servings. Okay, all right. So, Rashid, I remember Alex mentioned about the glucose test, the prick of the finger, and I've always heard about the glycemic index. We hear a lot about it, but I for one, I'm not so sure that I understand what it is. So, after we come from this break, I want you to explain for us what is the glycemic index about? What exactly is it? And how can it help us to understand the impact of food on our blood sugar? Remember, to listeners, we want to hear from you. How has your diet changed because of diabetes? We're looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Send us your texts or your voice notes and keep them 30 seconds or less. You may send to 876-997-3125. Call a friend, tell a friend, let them know Family Time is live on Love 101 and we want to hear from you. Please, when we get back from the break, you'll hear the fact on the glycemic index. Talk soon.
In 2 Corinthians 12, verse 7, the Apostle Paul mentions a thorn in the flesh that he had been given by God to keep him humble. While we don't specifically know what that may have been, his response can help us to handle our own thorns of the flesh. Here are some points to note. Number one, live every day with renewed thankfulness and purpose for God. For a century ago, diabetics died in their 30s and 40s. Current medical advances, of course, have extended life for diabetics. Thank God then for life and live it with purpose. Number two, make 2 Timothy 1:7 become a truth in your life. It says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-discipline." All of us should be disciplined in the way we eat, but for a diabetic, another level of discipline is required. Don't live in fear of your thorn. Instead, embrace the power, love, and self-discipline that God has provided. Number three, the Bible lists self-control as part of the fruit of God's Holy Spirit. This means that if you are a genuine Christian, then self-control in the areas needed to control diabetes should be easier for you than a non-Christian. So live thankfully, purposefully, fearlessly, and with self-discipline, embracing the help that comes from God's Holy Spirit to overcome your thorn in the flesh. I'm Reverend Mike from Fellowship Tabernacle, and we just had a WTF moment.
When teeth diapers are difficult to change, it's time for Pampers Easy Up. They're easy to put on and take off, keeping their skin protected. When they changes are easy with Easy.
Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the Ministry of Counseling and Prayer of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today, 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. It's the telephone counseling and prayer ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. A reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
When I come to the end of myself, carry me.
What gift gives you joy?
Renovating my home.
Finance your personal loan with CIBC Caribbean and use your funds to enjoy a dream holiday, home renovations, or more. Plus, we'll gift you 50% off the application fee and the chance to win one of 3 cash prizes from our pot of up to $2.4 million. Visit CIBCFCIB.com/joy of giving. CIBC Caribbean, terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. It is now 6:04 p.m. and you are tuned to Love 101, and this is Family Time. Family Time is brought to you by the Family Life Ministries. Family Life Ministries provides counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. And this evening's topic is on the diabetes diet dilemma. Now, just before the break, you would have heard from Rev Mike with another word to flesh moment. And he says we should be thankful, we should live with purpose, we should be fearless, and we should exercise self control. And a lot of dieting has to do with self control. Before we went for the break, Rashid was explaining to us the glycemic index and what it really is. So, Rashid, back to you.
All right. So the glycemic index is a way that we categorize or put foods into groups in relation to how they will impact your blood sugar. Now, before we even talk about glycemic index, let's go back a little bit to talk a little bit about sugars. Now, sugars are generally classified into two main branches. We have simple and we have those that are more complex. The complex ones are like your starches, your foods, your fiber. Those would be considered complex. And then we have the simple ones, which tend to be very sweet to the taste. So what you'll find is that foods that will be considered, for example, high glycemic index tend to be those that are a lot sweeter to the taste. So when you think of some of the pastries that we would eat, or let's say candy or a drink item, then you would think of those as being high glycemic index, meaning when you consume them, because they're in such a simple form, they're easily taken in by your body, and that causes your blood sugar to go up a lot faster compared to a low glycemic index item or food. For example, let's say you had a piece of dasheen. When you have that piece of dasheen, because it is made up of complex sugars that have to be broken down, you find that the blood sugar goes up a lot slower and a lot, you have a steady increase over time compared to when you're having something that is a lot sweeter. So that's where we come in with the high glycemic index and the low glycemic index. The low glycemic index, your starches, your fibers. High glycemic index, these tend to be the foods that are very sweet to the taste.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Rashid. I never thought about the high and the low glycemic index like that. Maybe because I'm not as knowledgeable as I ought to be. And so I want to think of, someone like myself then, who love food but may not know all about it. So I want to think, Alex, are there foods that we might think is healthy but could actually spike our blood sugar levels unexpectedly, seeing that we may not know, which food is a high or a low glycemic level?
Wonderful, wonderful question. Well done by my colleague, Dr. Perry. I just want to highlight that with our glycemic index monitoring, it's really the dietitian who guides the patient. So we don't expect our general man to know this. And this is why we recommend that you see your dietitian, whether in the public system or in the private system. Just like how you go to your doctor, we recommend that you see your dietitian so that you can get this information broken down to you on a personal level. But something that I see common with my diabetic patients is that they don't know that fruits, and this is a big myth in Jamaica, fruits does affect your sugar, your diabetes. And if you eat 1 dozen mango and you come to clinic and you get a high sugar reading, it is not because you're not eating healthy, because some persons think eating their fruits, yes, it is healthy, and we recommend eating fruits, but we always recommend everything to be done in moderation and everything to be done in its correct portion. So if we are going to eat our fruits, we have to remember that fruits have fructose. And anything that end with ose, sucrose, fructose, maltose, galactose, all of these oses, they are all sugars, and our body interacts with them same as any other sugar. So we want to ensure that we are very careful with the amount of fruits that we are eating. So diabetics, wherever you are, I pray that the Holy Ghost is meeting you right there and ministering to you that you're eating too much fruits. So the whole heap of fruits, yes, it is healthy. I'm not saying fruits isn't healthy, but we have to do it in the right portion and we must do it in moderation. So yes, it's healthy. I don't want nobody to leave the program tonight with the wrong concept. Fruits are healthy, but too much fruit, saints of God. So the dozen mango that we eat during mango season, and then we complain say the sugar now come under subjection is because of the whole heap of mangoes. Yes, I'm calling out the mangoes tonight because every mango season our clinics is filled with diabetic patients having hyperglycemic episodes. So we want to monitor our fruit intake.
Boy, I don't know, but that one felt very, very like a conviction to my soul. Moderation is
Praise
important, and
God.
thank you for reminding us. That one ministered to me. So, yes, listeners, remember fruits are important, but as Rev Mike said in the word to flesh moment, self control and moderation go together. So I've processed that and I'll take heed. I won't just brush it off and say, I know I having food to tell you. I will look at my serving portions. So, Rashid, we hear about the fruits that are important. And yes, we include in the fruits in the diet. But a big one that we hear a lot about, we hear about, okay, sweeteners, artificial sweeteners or substitute. You know, we hear some people say, oh, they only use sugar. Some people say they use honey. I mean, when it comes to sweeteners or even artificial sweeteners, are they really safe? And are there things that we should be avoiding and things that we should be trying to include more?
Uh, that's a very good question. And just to hop on with what Alex had just shared, the mango them. I'm not lie to you. It's when it comes to mango season and especially the black mango. 'Cause remember when you eat black mango in there, you can't eat one or two, you know, end up all eat a dozen. And these fruits are when you eat too much of them, they just wreak havoc. But going back to your question, I would be very wary of artificial sweeteners. And what I find is that currently the research is not concrete as it relates to the long term effects of artificial sweeteners. A few of them have been known to disrupt the natural bacteria in your gut. Um, and there are potential long term consequences that are just now coming out that we should be very mindful of. I know it's very easy for person to say, hey, instead of having sugar, just go, you know, buy a pack of artificial sugars. It's not as it's not an easy fix. It doesn't fix anything. It's more like a patch. Artificial sugars as well tend to be a lot sweeter than the non-artificial sugars. And our concern is as well is that what you end up doing is you're creating a dependency on sweetness. So yes, you're moving from one sugar which has an impact on your blood sugar, but you're moving to another one that is even sweeter and giving you this continuous feeling of sweetness with whatever you're eating, which is not good for you over time. Again, we really don't know what will happen to you 10 years, 15 years down the line. I know that persons have a tendency of saying, okay, I'm going to have white sugar, brown sugar, or swap them with honey. They're all sugars. The same sugars that you find in brown sugar is the same sugars you'll find in the granulated sugar. So if you swap your brown and white sugar for honey and you're using the same amount, you're getting the same amount of sugar. So you still have to be very, very careful. But with artificial sugars, beware.
Beware. Listeners, you heard it from the professionals. Beware. Now we are heading into our final break. Remember, this is family time and we are live on Love 101 FM. Remember to join us on our social media platforms, YouTube and Facebook. Family Time is produced by Family Life Ministries. And please remember today's discussion is how has your diet changed because of diabetes. Now, it's not too late to share your experience. Send your text or WhatsApp voice notes to 876 997 3125, or you can give us a call on our studio lines at 876 968 8327 or 8328. We want to hear from you. After the break, we'll go into our closing topics for you to take away on diabetes and your diet. Stay tuned.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Know how much you can afford to spend. Be truthful with yourself and honestly determine how much you can afford to save or borrow. Do not rush into any financial decision. Always remember that you are responsible for your own financial well being. So be smart about your financial decisions and choose products that are right for you.
This financial literacy tip was brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, building an inclusive economy.
Sometimes all we need is a listening ear. The listening ear, the counseling, the logical reasoning, and spiritual guidance are what appeal to us. That's why I'm here. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, the counselor, your counselor on Love 101 FM, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. You know you can call on me. I will listen and more. So let's talk about what's bothering you. Anything. Tune in, listen, call in, text or voice message. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, counseling psychologist, ready with a listening ear. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. Right here on the family station, Love 101 FM.
Let it rock when I'm alcoholic. Guaranteed to have a good time.
White grape, red grape, strawberry, peach. Any celebration, the buckle of reach. Pink and blue, magic papa, baby shower. Mixed food, pineapple, coconut, good for every hour. I'm the Jamaican sorry. Mix are straight, everybody can manage.
Make magical moments with Magic Sparkling.
Welcome back. It is now 6:18 p.m. and you are tuned to Love 101 FM. This is Family Time, brought to you by the Family Life Ministries. Family Life Ministries provides counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. Remember, you can tune into today's program by commenting on our Facebook or our YouTube page also. Today's topic is the diabetes diet dilemma, and our special guests are Alex Johnson, clinical dietitian intern, master's in public health and gerontology student, and the managing director of Dietitian Corner JA, and also Mr. Rashid Perry, who is a food scientist and a nutritionist. He is also a doctoral candidate. Now, before we went for the break, Rashid reminded us that all sugars are important for us to check, not just the black sugar versus the white sugar and the artificial sweeteners and all these things. We have to look at them all. And so, Rashid, I have to ask you, are there some hidden sugars or ingredients that we should look out for on the food label? I know some of us try to read the food labels, but we can't always understand the ingredients that are listed. So, are there some that we should pay keen attention to?
Definitely. And I think Mr. Johnson mentioned this earlier when looking at the sugars, the ones that end in O, SE, so O's. Those are the sugars you should look for. But generally, what you'll find in a lot of food items is that they tend to use, you'll see glucose, you will see mannose, you'll see fructose, but there's a particular type of sugar which a lot of manufacturers tend to use because of its sweet nature, and that is high fructose corn syrup. Now, when looking on your food item, when it, at least for us as Jamaicans, when we buy food, we don't look at the nutrition facts panel or the ingredients. We tend to just, you got a supermarket, you want this, you want that, you pick it up, you put it in your basket. Or you got a wholesale, you order that off for the shelf, but we tend not to look at the ingredients portion of food. And these sugars are often there. Now, what I can say is that it can be very daunting because a lot of times when you look at the ingredient list, they have other ingredients, and for a lot of them, many of us cannot pronounce. And once you start reading and it becomes difficult, you kind of just give up. And that's why it's very important, as Mr. Johnson was saying before, that just as how you have your regular doctor visit, you need to have a nutritionist as well. Because just as how you have as many, let's say, drugs on the market, you have even more different types and forms of food. And they're the ones that will walk you through how to do it. And even if you found a food item that you now like and you're not too sure about it, it's very important that you have somebody that you can ask these questions. But again, high fructose corn syrup tends to be one that we have to watch out for.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Sir Alex, I am happy that we have you online because you're the dietitian, the person who we need to ask the question. Now, Rashid said just now, it can be daunting at times and we cannot give up. And guess what? We don't want to give up on taste either. So, I want to ask, what are some good go to meal ideas or food swaps for people who want to keep the blood sugar stable and under control, or even to prevent diabetes, but we don't want to give up on taste? Alex, I think we may be having a little technical glitch there. I'm hoping that you heard me. All right, so while Alex reconnects there, I'm going to ask Rashid, are there some good go-to meal ideas or food swaps for people who we want to keep good taste, but keep the blood sugar under control?
There are some good food swaps that we can do. There One of the bigger ones I'll say is, for example, let's use dumpling. Okay, I know as Jamaicans we love a dumpling, right? And for a lot of us, we will love a white dumpling.
Yes,
So,
I love white dumpling, flour dumpling. Yes, I
yeah,
do.
man, flour dumpling straight. But midway is to mix flour. So, for example, if you're going to make your regular, your white flour or even your spinach, you start adding a little whole wheat flour to it, because what you'll find is, for example, whole wheat flour tends to have it has a rougher texture when you're eating it. And for a lot of us as Jamaicans, we're used to having just the white flour with a little cornmeal, a little salt. So a good way to help to change the behavior is to add a little whole wheat, And then what happens now over time, you're actually increasing the amount of complex carbohydrates or fiber in the dumpling to the point where you're now moving into having more whole wheat items, right? Another tip as well could be, for a lot of us, we like white rice. Um, And there is a recommendation that we should be having more whole wheat rice. Yeah. So the midway point is to have parboiled rice and then graduate upwards. Um, there's also cinnamon that can be used. Now, cinnamon has,
I love cinnamon.
yes, and it has the ability of um, increasing the sweetness of whatever you're having. So if you're having a little tea, say you want it a little bit more sweeter, then you could add a little sugar and add some cinnamon, and that's going to give you that perceived sweet taste that you would like. So these are some tips that you can use. Simple tips, nothing that's going to take you out of the way to really make some good change.
Yeah, things that we can start with. All right, thank you so much, Rashid. We have a caller. Caller, over to you. Good evening. Yes, hello. Good night. How are you? Go ahead with your question or
Hello.
comment. Yes, go ahead. We're hearing you. Go ahead.
Hi. Yes. Good evening to you. To you. Good evening. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing you. Go right ahead.
Thank you for this wonderful program this evening. So informative. But yes. But
No,
what I
go ahead.
know, I want to know something about nuts because I've been researching nuts and I wonder what nuts are good for the diabetic and what proportion we should consume. I actually sent a voice note. I don't know if you saw the voice note.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, caller. All right. So we're going to ask you to turn your radio off or down. All right. So, Rashid, the caller wants to know about nuts. What nuts are good for the diabetic diet? And I see we also have Alex who has rejoined. So, Alex, our caller now just wants to know about portions and nut for the diabetic diet. So, can you answer that one for us, please?
All right, I'm so sorry I got kicked off, but for thank you for calling, caller. I'm happy that you asked the question. So our nuts and seeds, we classify them in, some of them come under our fat group, but with our nuts and seeds, we get unsaturated fats, which is healthier fats, as we like to call them, because they are plant-based. So we do recommend a fistful. So just for example, say of peanuts or almonds or cashew nuts, we usually recommend a fistful. So that is our recommendation. Fistful of these nuts per serving. So it's a question that we could go on and on, but time wouldn't allow us. So it's something that you can reach out. You can reach out to me via Dietitian Corner JA. That's on Instagram, DIETITAN Dietitian Corner JA on Instagram, and I could answer the question further for you.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Alex. I know with these interesting topic, time goes quickly. And so I'm going to just ask both Alex and Rashid to give us two parting words to leave for food of thought for today's topic.
All right. So I would say my takeaway is one, do not be afraid of sugar. Do not be afraid of carbohydrates. Living with diabetes does not mean that you will not be able to have the foods you love. It's just that the way have these foods has to change.
All right, thank
And
you. Over
yeah.
to you, Alex.
My two parting words is see your dietitian, nutritionist. You don't have to see my company per se, but I'm just recommending you to see your dietitian, nutritionist. Everything that you're doing for your diabetes management is personal. And what we are giving here tonight is general information. So we want you to see your dietitian nutritionist for that personalized treatment so that you can get the diet prescription to fit your needs and your conditions.
All right, it sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, Alex and Rashid, for being here. And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in as always. If you have questions of a personal nature or you are concerned about a family or a friend, call us. For more information on the services of the Family Life Ministries, our counselors are ready and available to serve you. Please call our head office at 876 920 1034 or 876 926 8101. Please know that for appointments and information's cost, you can call to get more information and schedule your appointments. Remember to keep up with all that's happening on our Facebook page at FLM Family Life Ministries. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Family Life Ministries FLMJA, and on Instagram at FLMJA. Before we leave with you today, our Bible scripture is Psalms 73, verse 26. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. Please join us again next week for another informative program. And thanks again to our special guests, Alex Johnson and Rashid Perry. Thanks also to our show producer, Kathy Gale, and our studio facilitator, Darren. And of course, I'm your host, Tamika Scott Walters. Have a great rest of week. Keep dry and keep safe. Bye.